Shohei Ohtani, who? I don't even care about this guy anymore. Like, he's
No,
old
no.
news at this
Stop
point.
it.
Yes, sir, there she goes.
Hello and welcome to episode 295 of Section 138. I'm your host, Mark Colley, as always, joined by Bryson and Jacob. And we've got a special guest with us on the podcast. We've got Josh. He's not just a guest, but he's joining us now as a permanent co-host on the podcast. It's part of our attempted solution to get episodes out more regularly and make this podcast a little bit more exciting and consistent in the future. So welcome to all of you, especially Josh. Guys, how are you?
What's up, guys? It's a pleasure to be here, making my debut after much trouble with the tech over here. But, we're rolling now, ready to go. I'm excited to join the boys here. Love what you guys have been doing for the last couple of years and excited to get going.
Yeah, you know what? We can just chalk that up as like a demo episode, Josh, because we did, as you were saying, we did try and get one out before. The good news is nothing has really changed in terms of news with this team, but of course, the same result. I guess we can, as we talked about last time when we tried to record, we can talk about again today with just kind of how devastating it did feel with the fallout of course, the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes. And of course, we're here today to talk about what is next for this team.
Yeah.
And see, it's weird because we recorded that attempt, I think it was like a week ago. And so that was already like 4 or 5 days after the Ohtani stuff. And now I'm like, Shohei Ohtani, who? I don't even care about this guy anymore. Like, he's
No,
old
No,
news at this
stop
point.
it.
not me.
Like, I'm sad, but like at the same time, I'm like, all right, let's whatever. Let's move on from him.
Yeah, but
Obviously,
that's
we
your
still have to talk about
personality.
it, but
Quickly.
yeah.
You're easygoing, Jacob. Like you can move on, like dated, not me. Like the Dodgers and me have a rivalry for life now. I've always hated them, and this just boosted it a little more. So excited to talk about them for sure.
All Jacob needs is his Pokemon, and he's fine.
Hey, okay. I don't know why we're
Pokemon
bringing that
video
up on the
games.
podcast. Speaking, actually, no, we're not getting involved in that.
Okay, to get
Anyways,
back on
Ohtani.
track, what we do want to talk about is, of course, we all know the drama that happened with Flight N616RH, with Robert Herjavec flying into Toronto, with it being the most tracked plane in the world, with John Morosi saying that Shohei Ohtani is on his way to Toronto, and then Bob Nightingale saying Shohei Ohtani is not on his way to Toronto. He is not on a plane. He is at his home in Southern California. We all know all that drama. And then, of course, ultimately the $700 million deal he got with the Los Angeles Dodgers and the $680 million that are deferred over 10 years after his contract for luxury tax purposes. But what we need to talk about is what the Blue Jays missed out on, and whether we blame this on the Blue Jays if there is some level of they should have offered more, or if this kind of just was the predetermined outcome, which I think is what most people see this as now. Shohei Ohtani wanted to go to the Dodgers from day one, and he went to the Dodgers, and everything else was just show and games and having other teams involved for leverage purposes. So the report that we'll start with is from Jeff Passan. He reported that when Los Angeles offered the $700 million, $680 million of which was deferred to Ohtani, per Passan, the structure triggered quick approval from the Dodgers. Unbeknownst to them, Nez Balelo, Ohtani's agent, then proposed the same deal to at least three other teams: the Giants, the Blue Jays, and the Angels. The Giants and the Blue Jays agreed to the terms. The Angels were also given a chance, but sources said they ultimately declined. So from what it sounds like, the Blue Jays and the Giants were offering the exact same deal that the Dodgers had on the table, and Ohtani just chose to go to Los Angeles. That seems to be the ultimate resting point of these contract negotiations. We've heard a lot. That seems to be the baseline. With that in mind, do you hold the Blue Jays accountable? Are you frustrated with the Blue Jays for not being able to get this deal over the finish line? Or do you see it as, like I said, I think most people see it, that this was kind of a foregone conclusion, that Ohtani wanted to stay in Los Angeles with the Dodgers and everything else was just noise? That's how I view it. I'm curious what you guys think.
Well, I'll be honest. I don't know how you can be mad at the Blue Jays for this. Like, yes, it did suck, and that Saturday, I don't know about you, but I'm sure we all kind of had the same thing. I opened Instagram and I'm like,
Friday.
no, on Saturday.
Oh, when he announced it, yeah.
I'm thinking, who the hell posted a picture of the Dodgers logo? And then I look, I'm like, oh, it's Ohtani. And then I'm reading through it, and then just that the rest of that day, I was just very void of emotions. Like I was very sad. I'm not gonna lie in the moment, but the Blue Jays were never supposed to be in this position to even acquire Ohtani, and then they make this big push. Some sources say that it was close. Like he was there. I mean, I've heard some reports that um the agent or Ohtani's agent was the one that said, "Oh, he's en route to Toronto." So then everybody was saying, "Oh, he's going to Toronto. Let's all
That's
track."
speculation.
No, no,
Let's
no.
say
But what I'm getting at is
speculation that
all
his agent
mm.
leaked that
yeah,
information. Pure
Jacob's key
speculation. No one's
sources.
reporting it.
No, no. What I'm getting at is, yeah, people are saying these things. Uh, Perhaps the Blue Jays were as close as they were suggesting, and then the Dodgers came in, swooped in. I don't know. I don't want to get too much into that, but the Blue Jays, they made a big push. They had him in Dunedin. They basically spent their whole winter meetings trying to get him. Ultimately fell short, but it's not like you can get mad at them for not getting him. Like they weren't supposed to be in this position. I'm not saying that that's, a good excuse, like, oh, too bad, whatever. It's not like you're supposed to get him anyways, but they made a push, and ultimately it was Otani's decision. Like those last 2, 3 days, it was what did Otani want? It's not this team offered me better. This team had a better chance to win. I mean, maybe you can argue that, but at the end of the day, Shohei Ohtani chose the Los Angeles Dodgers, regardless of how good of a push the Blue Jays made for him.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, when I talk about or when we talk about all of that stuff in terms of if it was used for leverage or whatnot, I had two conclusions the last time we tried to get it out, and I think it's more the other one now, where it was he used the Blue Jays for leverage, or he used the Blue Jays for leverage, and then the Dodgers got scared, and it was more of a panic move of them kind of upping their offer and taking this really to the finish line. And I think it's more the second one now, where as much as it wasn't reported, like you were talking about, Mark, I firmly believe, in my own opinion, that this was exactly their plan when you look back on it in terms of using them for leverage. As much as it may have seemed like he was close, or the Blue Jays were a close finalist to this, I think this was all executed perfectly from their side. And I think that it ultimately worked out because I think they knew that doing all this in terms of going to Dunedin and everything like that. And of course, I'm sure he wanted to take a look for it himself. I'm not saying it was purely, directed for leverage, but I think a part of it was he was using leverage enough to scare the Dodgers, that they were going to up their offer and, of course, kind of just keep them in the dark. And, and it sounds like from what the Dodgers were saying as well, or what the reports were saying, as of that Friday night, late that Friday night, there still wasn't an exact word from Otani's camp about what he was doing. So it just when you look back on it now over a week later, it just for me it all lines up perfectly that this was exactly what happened. Of course, I could be wrong. It just for me, I get a sour taste of how that all happened in terms of you know the possibility that he was using this team for leverage. And I know it's not necessarily the organization's fault. I mean, they did everything they could. They did host him for a visit. They did everything they could in terms of show the interest, match the offer. You were talking about the report, Mark, prior to or when you were introducing this. So the money was there, everything was there. It was just that this was something that it might have already been predetermined with Ohtani always wanting to stay in LA and go to the Dodgers. And I find it also silly that he was having an introductory press conference to the LA media, because that's how they were kind of labeling it when he's already been in LA for 6 years. I get it that he's changed teams. It just felt like, yeah, it was just a very weird. I don't know. I just found it all weird with that. But I mean, you can't get mad at the organization for those reasons that they tried. However, the media portrayal, that is a completely different story. And I'm not here to harp on anybody's credibility or work, but I mean, what a letdown in terms of what we were told. I don't know. I just going back to that whole report about him being on the plane. I don't know who the information came from. I wonder how that all played out in terms of how accurate maybe John Morosi thought it was, or I know we're never going to know, but who the heck told him that he was? It's just bizarre knowing that how that all played out. And for me, my gut was telling me, as much as it had nothing to do with the process of how it played out, when it turned out that it was not Shohei Ohtani on that plane, for some strange reason, my optimism of the Blue Jays landing him really plummeted. So again, I know that's completely unrelated. It was just kind of my gut talking to me about that, but it's just devastation because of the media portrayal of how close they truly were. And then afterward, just the sour taste as well from John Heyman about just harping on and I guess everybody else from the media about how, no offense to Toronto, but this is good for baseball. This is something where this is a hockey town, and other than the Maple Leafs, we don't really, the baseball world doesn't really see the Blue Jays as a major market. So we've had to deal with that entire fallout as well, where it just gives the media more and more leverage in terms of always harping on Toronto whenever they can get the chance. Because it felt like for the longest time, besides a couple other people could not, in the media, get over the fact that the Blue Jays were right there in terms of how close it was of Ohtani coming here again. We don't know how true it was, but they were definitely among the finalists. You can't rule that out. For me, though, I still think that this was a predetermined move for leverage. It just sucks how it all played out.
I think you really can't blame the Blue Jays franchise, and I'm one that's been very harsh on management here in Toronto. Yes, I want to see change. I'm frustrated. It's been 2 years of disappointment for a team that's had championship, hopes. But to me, this is just the classic Dodgers, and I want to give a shout out to Naden in our Discord chat, my boy. He said that it's easier rooting for teams like the Padres, and I think that's dead accurate. So what I decided to do is to join the bandwagon over in San Diego. I decided to join the Padres in hope of beating the Los Angeles Dodgers this upcoming season. That's how much
You've been
I
on
hate
this
the Dodgers.
podcast for 5 minutes, and you're already jumping on the bandwagon of another
No,
team.
it's Pod Jays, buddy. Remember, like when the All-Star game, they had that like little Pod Jays thing going. So you know what? I'm supporting the boys in San Diego. They're an NL team. We don't see them very often. So yeah, but anyways, that's how much I hate the Dodgers. So shout out to Nathan for giving me this idea. So, but anyways, they tried, they really did. We've been hearing for years that Ohtani, like the Dodgers were saving money for Ohtani. So initially, I think it was kind of a given that he was going to go there. Credit to Ross Atkins and Shapiro for really like making this almost happen. It was cool, that experience, like being in the Ohtani sweepstakes and stuff like that, and refreshing social media every couple minutes, but. I guess it wasn't meant to be. And, kind of in a way, maybe this works out down the road, because I don't think this team truly is one piece away. I think they're a couple pieces away. They're not a perfect team by any means. So yes, adding a generational player in Shohei Ohtani would have been a massive benefit, but still they're a couple pieces away from being a real contender in my eyes. But you know what? This gives them now the freedom to go out and do so. I don't think they're just one player away. I think they're a couple pieces, like I mentioned. And we're going to talk about that today. So,
yeah, this is kind of like well, first off, have fun being on the Padres bandwagon when they
the
declare
Padres,
bankruptcy in
We have a
2
Guardians
weeks.
hat and a Padres jersey.
Hey,
this is not
just,
fandom. This is just appreciation of the logo. Let me
this is
make that
appreciating the team that's in their division, because I can't stand the Dodgers, because look at the money they just threw at Shohei. It's a joke. We have teams
No,
in
I
this
agree.
league. It doesn't feel like the same league. Look at the Pirates, like the Oakland Athletics. It's not the same league anymore. It feels like we have a top half of the league and then a bottom half. It's like a quadruple AAA here between the Pirates and the Orioles. The Orioles, good for them for rebuilding, and their prospects came up, hit it off. But the other teams, like, are we going to see the Pirates really make a run here? No, and if they do so, it's going to be a 1 year, 2 year thing. So
they're spending.
It's just disgusting. Every other league in North American sports has some kind of cap structure. There's none in baseball.
No.
not.
We don't need a cap in baseball.
I don't care. There
There's
needs
a
to be
floor.
some.
You need a floor. It's not the Dodgers'
100%.
fault for spending this much money.
No, there needs to be a floor and some kind of structure, dude. The Dodgers and the Pirates are in the same league. And hey, I'm rooting for the Pirates too. Good. I hope they have success. Moneyball, great movie, great story, Billy
Rowdy
Bean.
Tellez.
But like Shohei Ohtani versus Rowdy Tellez in big off-season acquisitions, and you're telling me there's no need for a cap mark? Come on.
Okay, it'll never be agreed to.
I think
floor, sure.
I think we need both, just to kind of cover the middle ground. There needs to be a floor. There needs to be a cap, because, like, don't get me wrong, I think the way the NHL does their cap is kind of stupid. There's no way that Austin Matthews should make as much as he does.
Worst mistake the players did was agree to a cap for the NHL.
No, but at the same time, it also let's be honest, it wouldn't be fun if it would be fun if, as a Leaf fan, they signed Jack Eichel and all these players, like if they just stacked their team completely. But at the same time, is it really fun for the rest of the league? No. That being said, there needs to be a little bit of both.
You get an owner that wants to win. It's that simple.
No, but that being said, I feel for
devil's advocate. You get an owner with the Padres, rest in peace, an owner that wants to win, and then now they're going bankrupt in a month probably. with, all the Soto and the Tatis stuff. But anyways, to get back on track here with Ohtani, I mean, yes, like the Blue Jays can direct that money elsewhere. Will they still end up spending $700 million this offseason? Of course not. Of course not. They're not. But there is sort of like a 5 stages of grief here where first you're, okay, maybe he fails the physical and Ohtani will be back on the market. And then you're like, okay, well, now it's just anger and I'm mad at the Dodgers. And then you're kind of disappointed that they didn't sign him. And eventually you reach the point of acceptance where you go, you know what, we didn't want this guy anyways. His health is sketchy. His contract is going to be an albatross in 4 years. Like, eventually you get to a point where you accept it. I think that's where we are now, especially when you consider the fact that, look, if you believe Jeff Passan's reporting, every team in the final, the Giants, the Blue Jays, and the Dodgers all offered the same deal. And he just chose to go to the Dodgers. So when it's like you just raise your hands and there's nothing more the Blue Jays could have done. Could they have offered an extra 50 million or 100 million to get him to come here? Like, maybe. Would that have motivated Ohtani, who in the past hasn't been motivated by money, left $100 million on the table when he transferred to North America at age 23 instead of 25? Like, I don't know if an extra 100 million would have made a difference for him, especially when he's making $50 million a year in sponsorship. So I don't know. It's kind of at the point where you throw up your hands and say, this guy wanted to be a Dodger. The Blue Jays tried. That's all you can do at this point.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, this was Ohtani's choice. So move on. Let's get Marcus Stroman. Let's get Cody Bellinger. Let's get Matt Chapman. Let's do something because like,
with all due respect, you could move on, not me. I can't stand the Dodgers. Bryson knows I've hated them for like years. So this just cemented it now. Like, that's the reason I'm joining the Padres, is because I cannot stand that team. I cannot stand any of their players, especially like the Freeman stuff last year. And then now this year, the Shohei, it's just, I can't stand that team. So I'm hoping the Padres, make them suffer this year.
Well,
but you know what would be funny is if the Dodgers don't win a single World Series in the next 10 years.
Well, that's usually what happens.
I would love that. Hey, whatever they could, as long as I just can't stand them. So yeah,
it definitely it allowed them to go and get Tyler Glass now and extend him.
I forgot about that.
That adds to the problem with that. But I guess from a Blue Jays perspective, that's a good thing. He's out of the division, thank God. But I mean, Tampa Bay produces pitchers like that, like it's like they're eating breakfast. So that's the other scary part, is that there's just tons of more in that organization. But I mean, to get Glasnow out of there, of course, not complaining as a Blue Jays fan, but I mean, it just added to the Dodgers thing. It allowed them to do that and get Tyler Glasnow and possibly go after Yamamoto and other people. So yeah.
Well, I mean, there is a clause in Shohei Ohtani's contract, according to Tom Verducci, Sports Illustrated, that, well, yes, the opt-out, but I'm like, they are contractually obligated now to build a winning team around Shohei Ohtani. They have to build a competitive team around this guy. So they're not stopping at Tyler Glasnow or Yamamoto. Like, they are going to continue to do this. So I guess that's bad news for you, Josh.
Yeah, so I guess I just stop watching baseball now, or like, do I go watch like AAA full time?
Let's just put all of our hopes in the
baseball
Leafs.
Works. And like, the Dodgers have won one World Series in the last 10 years, despite winning the division every year. So like, I don't know. You might hate to see them in the regular season, but come the postseason, you're going to enjoy watching them fail. So I guess that's your kind of silver lining.
That's what I have to root for as a fan, is I have to watch the sport to hope some team fails in the playoffs. What?
You don't have to hope. They always fail. They have 10 times out of the last 10. So, I mean, 9 times out of the last 10, I guess, except for the Mickey Mouse season.
Fair. I'll give you that.
But see, what I don't get is why Ohtani said he wants a winning team. I'm not saying the Blue Jays have been a winning team, especially in the playoffs, but I'm shocked that he's like, I want a winning team, but let's go to the team that can't win a single thing other than a World Series when you played a 60-game season.
Well, on paper, I mean, they're always up there, right?
Let's move on. I can't stand this team. Move on.
If it was all paper, then the Blue Jays would have won in 2021 and 2015. Anyways,
okay, we'll move on.
Let's go back to Toronto, where it's happy and it's fun.
It's sensitive.
Yeah, back to Toronto, where Marcus Stroman was this past week. He posted a photo on his Instagram story of the CN Tower, looking very nice with the cloud passing in front of the CN Tower. The other names that the Blue Jays, it was a very cool photo. The other names that the Blue Jays are involved with, who they may move on to now that Shohei Ohtani is out of the conversation. Let me remind you, the Blue Jays have spent $0 in free agency this offseason. Major League free agency, that is. So the Blue Jays have been rumored to be involved with Cody Bellinger, Christian Yelich, Marcus Stroman, at least from his Instagram, Jorge Soler, and the guy we're mentioning, Yamamoto. They've been mentioned in all of those conversations. Let's just go one by one, I guess. I think Bellinger is the one that they were most prominently featured in. It was Bob Nightingale, I believe, who reported that they are favorites now for Bellinger. Bellinger's contract is really interesting because he's a guy who's been a roller coaster, as you point out, Bryson. He's been up and down like crazy, and yet his agent, Scott Boras, is trying, or at least we've heard he wants to get a $200 million plus contract for a guy who hasn't been consistent at all over the past few years. So I guess to start things there, is he worth the potential money? Do you want Cody Bellinger to be a Blue Jay, or would you rather they pass on someone who has been so volatile in past years?
Well, I'd love for him to be a Blue Jay, but at 200 million, like, no disrespect, but I'd rather give that money to Matt Chapman. Like,
Whoa, what?
okay, and I know it's a very different
200
position.
million?
No, I'm not. I don't. 200 million is too much, but if I'm going to spend that much, it's definitely not going to be on Cody Bellinger. Like,
Good save.
it's way too much money. And
Or your money would be going to a guy that like can't hit, that we saw like consecutively all summer, just repeatedly miss the ball.
that's my point, is like, if there's no way I'm giving it to Cody Bellinger, well, okay, first of all, I wouldn't give Matt Chapman 200 million. I'd give him less, but you get my point. If I'm going to spend, it's not going to be on Cody Bellinger at all. So it's tough because I would like to see him, but the contract that I had written down is nothing compared to what I think he
What was
is.
it?
Well, here's the thing. If he wants 200 million, I don't understand where he's getting this from, because I'm thinking like 3 years, 4 years max is what anybody would be willing to give him. Like, I don't think he accepts that, but from a team risk perspective, I don't know what else you do. And then
I think he can get a longer contract. He's 28 years old.
I think he's going to get it too.
I
yeah,
think he gets
agree.
a
I agree
6,
there.
7, maybe 6 or 7 year
Mhm.
contract. But I think the issue is the money. How much team wants to give a guy who has not been consistent?
well,
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
Go on.
go ahead, Jacob. Finish off.
No, I was gonna say, like, okay, so you give him that, but then what? You give him, if he wants 200 million, I mean, 20 million times 6 years, only 120. So it's like, does he accept that? I don't know. That's what's tough is
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's just like I think he is going to get it. I'm not saying it's going to be here. And also like this is something that we've hinted on throughout the year too, is that the class is very weak. It was Ohtani, and then it was Soto, of course, through the trade market. And then there's just a different level in terms of who was left over, with all due respect to all those players. But I mean, in situations in the past where it has been like that, people like this get overpaid, and that's the truth. I don't know if the Blue Jays do it. Would I feel comfortable about it? There's a lot of potential for it to be a disaster by year 3, year 4. But I mean, of course, looking at the bright side of Cody Bellinger, I mean, he coming off a very good season with the Cubs, but the problem has been the inconsistencies. I mean, nobody's doubting how he started off his career the first couple of years, and then of course pretty much after 2020, 2021 and 22 were terrible in terms of his production, especially at the plate with power, and that's the one thing that this lineup needs. So again, I don't know if I'm comfortable with 200 million, but I wouldn't possibly rule it out, especially with the reports, and I know the Blue Jays love to be finalists, so I'm not completely gonna go overboard with this, but according to Bob Nightingale, they are the current favorites for him. That could definitely change, and I know he's a Scott Boras client. Scott Boras loves to get his clients paid. The market's weak. It's they're going to get overpaid. He's going to get it. I just don't know if it's going to be here, and I don't know if I'm comfortable with that, though. I don't think so.
Well, here's the thing. Like, when you look at free agency, like, there's a high chance oftentimes that these players get overpaid. That's just how it is, because they have the leverage. They could pick where they want to go. So when you kind of look at it from that perspective, to me, I'm kind of on the table with, I know it's going to be a hefty contract. There is tons of risk, but we've heard Blue Jays management talk that they have this 2-year window kind of in mind, that they want to win now. So if we can add a guy like Cody Bellinger, who we know should probably strive at that new Rogers Center with the renovations that we thought would happen last year, which did not happen at all.
We love renovations.
Yeah, but like, I could see him having a good year. I could see him being successful here. Like Bryson said, there's a bit of inconsistencies there for sure. But I think that's a guy that it kind of like there needs to be change here. Like I've talked about it before. There's just been so much disappointment with this group. And you know what? It's not fair to the fans. They need something, like a reason to go to the ballpark. And they've been tied to every single big name possible, even Jose Ramirez last year or the year before, whatever. And it's just been constant disappointment, like player after player. And you know what? Soto's gone now. So this team needs to do something. And Bellinger right now, looking on paper, is probably the best guy to get on the free agency market. Jorge Soler, I'm on the fence. Hey, I'm a power guy. I would love to add a power bat to the lineup, and he certainly brings that. But then you kind of question the defense in the Blue Jays offseason last year. And then in my eyes, if I have management going from prioritizing defense to going to do the exact opposite thing the following year, it just kind of seems weird to me that management is changing their philosophy there. I don't like that. So I think Cody Bellinger would be my pick if I had to pick somebody right now in free agency.
I would be fine with the front office changing their philosophy because clearly the philosophy did not work last season.
Shout
Like
out to
we
Gabby
saw,
Moreno.
they kind of overemphasized the run prevention, and they did not consider enough the offensive contribution, or at least they if it's a pendulum, they lean too much in one direction and not
100%.
enough in the other.
See, it's almost like they
So
prevented their own runs, not the other team's runs.
No, but
Damn.
continue, Mark. Sorry.
Well, I'm fine with them adjusting their internal formula or internal approach or however you want to say it. When it comes to Cody Bellinger, I don't know. Like, I think this money and this effort is better spent elsewhere. Like another guy we're going to talk about is Christian Yelich. I feel like he is a more consistent, realistic, dependable guy to add to your lineup than someone like Cody Bellinger. And I would love that. Like he checks all the boxes for the Blue Jays, but the fact that he had an 81 OPS plus in 2022, a 44 OPS plus in 2021, and then he was like slightly better than average in 2020, 112 OPS plus. Like those are the last 3 seasons for him outside of this past season when he was at 133 with the Cubs. It's like, I don't know if you really should be spending $200 million. And I think he will get $200 million somewhere. Some team is going to offer him, what's the math? $40 million over 6 years. Is that works out, or 30 million over 7, 8 years? That works out. Like, I think some team is going to offer him that amount of money. I don't think it should be the Blue Jays. I think it'd be potentially disastrous consequences in how that contract plays out. It could work out. It could. I just think the risk is too high for a team like the Blue Jays. And I think, to be honest, if you're spending that much money over the next 6, 7 years on someone not named Shohei Ohtani, it's better spent on an extension to Vladimir Guerrero Jr., an extension to Bo Bichette. I think there's kind of 3 different classes we're talking about here. There's Shohei Ohtani money. There is like the B-list free agent, the Cody Bellinger money, and then there's the C-list free agent, the Matt Chapman money, I don't know, I guess you could put Stroman in that class. Like those are kind of the classes that I see, and I think they should be very willing and able and ready to spend C-level free agent money. I think Bellinger might belong in the C class, but he's going to get B-level money, if that makes any sense. I don't think the Blue Jays should be spending
I like that. Yeah, the market, like Bryson said, it's not a year for free agents. But going back to what I said about the philosophy, if you're gonna change for, like, they went all in on defense last year, and it panned out to a certain extent, right? Like, they did have a good year defensively, but it hurt the offense, which you could kind of see it coming, and everyone, I think it got kind of wrapped up between the renovations of Rogers Center. Everybody kind of thought, yeah, they're prioritizing defense, but they're going to hit home runs and stuff no matter what because of the smaller structure in Rogers Center. But like, if you're going to change your philosophy as a general manager or, any kind of sport here that much, to me, I think, why wouldn't you just, get a new brain in that position to kind of work with it? Because if it didn't work before, and now you're changing it completely, it just kind of confuses me. Like, what path are we going with this team? And, to me, to win in baseball, you got to have a mix of everything. You got to play good defense. You got to have power. You got to have contact guys. You got to have speed, and you got to have arms to pitch. So to me, like, switching back and forth, I'm just confused as to what direction we're heading in here, if that makes sense, Mark.
I think I'm fine with a front office recognizing that they made a mistake one year and fixing it the next. Like, I don't think that's a indication of the ability of a front office. I don't think it means Ross Atkins is a terrible GM. I think it just means They tried something. They saw a problem in 2021 with run prevention. They tried to fix it in 2022 with run prevention. They tried to fix it in 2023, and they swung too far the other direction. And now they realize, okay, we really need to make sure. I don't know. I'm okay with the GM learning from his mistakes, I guess,
For sure,
is the way
for
to
sure.
put it.
But
But
see,
there has to be the direction here. I just don't know what direction we're heading in. Like these aren't like, you know, like big time names like Soler or whatever, like Bellinger. Yeah, they're going to help, but like, where are we going from here? Like, to me, there's been so much disappointment. We've been talking about, deep playoff runs for years now with Bo and Guerrero and the new guys coming in, and it's just been disappointment. It's been disappointment year after year. And, I'm kind of annoyed with that. And to be changing philosophies now, this late in their tenure, it's not like they just hired these guys. And hey, I agree. I love the learning aspect. I love to see that they're trying. But to me, I'm just confused to where we're going. So how this offseason goes from here is going to determine a lot for me moving forward.
But see, I can't even fully be mad at Ross Atkins because you look at, the offense was just clearly a weak point of this team last year. But George Springer, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette to some extent, Matt Chapman, Dalton Varsho. I'm not saying that we can expect a lot out of those last two, but
Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
no, but those first three, like Springer, Bichette, Guerrero, those three had down seasons. Like Bichette, not as much, but still, like these were not good seasons out of the typically good players. And so yeah, it's a combination of you get rid of a power hitter of Hernandez, you don't bring back Simeon 2 years ago, but at the same time, your star players need to be your star players, and we've seen that in Toronto among every single sport, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, yes, I think this GM needs to be better. Or I'm gonna even say better. I think he needs to very carefully craft this team around the star players, but at the same time, these star players need to perform.
Yeah, to end it off before we move on, for me, no matter what the philosophy is, I think first of all, I do think that I think there's a direction if they find balance in terms of that, because if some of these guys, you mentioned it too, Mark Yelich, I don't know who it's going to be, but if they get one of these guys, they still have the run prevention there. So that's why I think that they can definitely lean towards more of a middle ground. Of course, you still have Varsho and everything like that. He's an investment long term. He's under team control. So if they can find a good sense of balance there, I think there's a decent direction with this team. But I mean, for me, it starts off with the big boys. It starts off with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Let's face it, no matter what philosophy you have, hitting ground balls every at bat is not going to cut it for this team. And that's exactly what it felt like most of the at bats were this year, unfortunately, because the power was down. He had a very good start. It was down. It was up and down. And we haven't seen the same Vladdy from 2021 still. And a lot of us were hoping that 2023 was going to be the year he bounced back. That was not the case in terms of signs of promise early on. Of course, there's still time that he can figure this out, but I do think that a large portion of this relies on him as much as this is who he was supposed to be. This is the guy that we talked about in terms of somebody who's supposed to be a game changer and take things over. You look at Atlanta with Ronald Acuna, it's not even close in terms of the level that he's at
100%.
compared to
Yep.
Vladdy right now. And Vladdy needs to get to that level because that's what we've been talking about. Of course, that's going to be a massive boost. There's still holes on this team, but for me, I think and I'm sure there is accountability there. I'm not saying there isn't. I just think that a lot of the downfall, as much as it may not be fair to Vladdy if he doesn't believe that, I think it starts with him just to base off performance. I know Bichette was the most consistent hitter. George Springer had a down year as well. It was up and down. They need more from him as much as he is on the decline, but I think they got to find a balance in terms of adding power back to the lineup. And while they can keep the run prevention, they need players like this that are going to boost the middle of their order because that's what they're missing right now. And then there's holes at third base. What's going to go on with Chapman? There's second base. And then, of course, maybe adding another outfielder wouldn't do any, would definitely help as well to get that power back and keep that run prevention.
100%. I love the way you described that. That accurate. That's kind of like me. Just got to find that sweet spot between, yes, they're not going to be, just adding Soler doesn't make them a bad defensive team. I just want to see more power here. I want this team to be fun again. Remember how fun that team was in 2021, right? Where you watch every at bat had a chance to,
That was their best team.
Yeah, it was electric, right? Like you wanted to go to Rogers and watch that team. To me, these last couple of years, it's slowly fizzled out. And yeah, I just want this team to be exciting again. I think the fans deserve it. And I think that there's talent here. I believe in this group. I believe in Guerrero, Bichette. I love what they got going here. We just need to iron out all the kinks. And I think this team will be rolling.
With that in mind, let's check off some of these other names quickly and discuss them. I guess we can start with Christian Yelich. Yes or no? Would you like to see him in a Blue Jay uniform?
I'd
Well,
love to
Jake, you
go.
go first because I know you have an interesting take here.
Well, no, I was gonna like. I think my opinion's a little bit different than the last time we discussed this, but
Oh, okay,
um,
so you changed it.
well, I'd love to see him. I don't know how likely it is, considering it is a trade. I think that it makes more sense to spend some money than it does to trade for him. Yes, he's under contract till I think it's 2028, so like it does kind of solidify your outfield for the next couple of seasons, but or I guess multiple, more than a couple, but I would like to see a signing instead of Christian Yelich.
Interesting. To me, like, I don't know, like, man, like I said earlier, management said they have this 2-year window. So to me, it's about maximizing this window for this team to succeed. And I think a guy like Yelich, and I had in my article that I wrote about, is, he brings some pop to this lineup. He brings some versatility. He's still got speed. I think he stole what was it? Yeah, still 28 bases last year, was it, or something? He's got, like I said, that pop from the left-handed side to add to this order. Yes, he's 32 years old. But it is a long-term contract, as you mentioned, Cock, until 2028 with an option for 2029. So it's going to be quite I say, long-term investment. But again, I'm not worried about down the road what's going to happen in 2026 or whatever. I'm worried about this team right now in this window while we have the talent that we have. Because like I said, this team has failed in back-to-back postseasons. The Seattle series was a joke, and last year was a disappointment as well. I think it's time that this team starts making some real moves, pushing in their chips, and they've done that, to Ross's credit. They've really made some moves. They've got aggressive, but I think a guy like Yelich to come here, and just kind of that upside still there, right? Like we don't know, really, like, if he could get back to that form that we saw a couple years ago, or it's been a long time since he's been on an All-Star game, but still, he's still got that inside of him, and he doesn't need to be that guy here in Toronto. He just has to be a serviceable player, a good player for the Blue Jays, and hopefully, like Bryson said, Vladdy could step up to his role as we've expected, and same with the other guys like Bo Bichette and stuff. But to me, I think Yelich would be an interesting investment, and I think that's a guy that I think would drive a lot of the fan base's attention back. And I think that not only is he a big name guy, but I think he also plays well when the pressure's on. And, I think his numbers have kind of taken a hit because that Milwaukee lineup isn't as loaded as the lineup here in Toronto. And he can kind of be protected a little more in a batting order that has Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette and George Springer as well. So I think that's going to kind of draw up his offensive numbers. And I think that kind of pop from the left-handed side would be some good numbers at Rogers Center.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. Again, it's the question of what Yelich are you getting? I think there were signs of it though last year. I mean, for the first time since 2019, he finally, he hit almost 20 home runs. And as much as the OPS plus has been up, shout out to Mark's favorite stat, it has remained up over the last couple of years. The power has gone down in terms of the home runs, and it's kind of a bizarre. I remember I said it to you guys last time. It was weird because it felt like the decline, it was just a little too early for him to decline that quick. So I don't know what it was, but of course the way his 2023 ended, I think it started off so from what I remember, but the way it ended, it actually was pretty promising. And I know his OPS was up as well for the first time since 2019 as well. It was up over 800 for the first time. So there is promise there. The Brewers seem to be motivated that they have to unload some money too. I know him and Burns are with, among or trade negotiations and trade rumors throughout the organization. So that's going to be interesting to see how motivated they truly are, though. And of course, you guys mentioned it. He's under control until 2029. So you're already taking on an existing contract. I don't know how much you take on, but I'm definitely not opposed to the interest there for Yelich.
I'm just worried that if it goes sour, that you're stuck with another longer contract with a player that's not performing. Because if your goal is to win now, uh, and it doesn't go well, you then have Springer who's on the decline. Guerrero hopefully figures his stuff out. Varsho needs to figure his stuff out. Matt Chapman, or I mean, the whole hole at third base. You got somebody that you have to figure out. Like, there's too many question marks, I think, to win now if you have Yelich. Not saying it wouldn't work, but it just I'd worry that if it doesn't work, you're stuck with him for a long time.
That's fair. I think that's fair. But like I said, I think right now you have to be prioritizing winning with this group. in these next couple seasons. I think this team's in a good spot to do so, but like I said, I'm not worried about down the road and what's going to happen with those contracts. I'm worried about next season and the year after that right now. That's my priority, at least.
The fact that he is 32 and he has 5 years left on his contract,
That's what I
24,
mean. It's
25,
gonna,
26, 27, 28. That part does worry me a little bit. So I'm
yeah,
with you
that,
on that. And you have to think about that when you're acquiring someone. But yeah, I think it'd be a good acquisition, as much as it's tough to tell what you give up for players in trades.
well,
Okay.
because he's got
Next
that
name.
contract, right? Like, I think like Milwaukee's not going to be asking for like high end value back. They just signed Jackson Chiro, was it right, to a pretty big contract. So I think his spot's going to be taken in the outfield. So I think he's kind of, they're not going to play my first base, I think I read. So I think it's going to be interesting to see his situation. And remember, Milwaukee does have some other names there. Willie Adamaze, could they do a duo trade? Would that interest you then?
No.
No? No?
I think at that point we're talking about too much prospect capital that the Blue Jays don't want to spend.
Fair, fair.
Okay, the next name on our list is Marcus Stroman. I think this one's pretty quick. Not only do some of us not want to see him in a Blue Jay uniform, a lot of us don't think it's going to happen. He has connections to Toronto. He was in Toronto. That happens.
He has the city tattooed to his body. Like,
yeah, like he's a fun guy, but like he's here every offseason. Like to me, I didn't get the spark on like social media. Like to me, we know guys come back here when they enjoy it, and I thought that was just a cool picture. Like, hey, if I was playing somewhere else in the MLB and I came home for a bit and I took a photo like that, I'd post it. I don't care. I just think that was like the speculation heads just trying to have fun.
No, yeah, I think it's just the whole speculation. Blue Jays fan base is kind of in shambles after that whole plane watch situation. Yeah. But no, I mean,
yeah, we're down bad.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any reason for Stroman to come to the Blue Jays. Not saying that he wouldn't be open to it, but like you already have a full rotation. I think it's fair to say, and for the next couple of seasons, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Yeah, at least.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It doesn't make sense for that because of the contracts they have. So yeah, I'm a quick no on that either. I just that's not what they need. That's not what they need right now. The pitching's good enough in terms of the starting rotation. They got to prioritize, of course, always improving to the bullpen and what we were talking about earlier with power and offense and the lineup.
Yeah, the fit just doesn't make sense.
Okay, Jorge Soler, yes or no? Will he be a Blue Jay? Do you want to see him be a Blue Jay?
No.
Oh.
That was quick.
Jacob.
I don't.
That was like right off the hop. You must really like what's turning you down so much from this idea?
No, it's just I think that there's better options out there. There's like I don't see it.
Better options.
I just
class.
Yeah.
Well, no, fair enough.
I can't see those.
No, well, we've seen we've talked about other names throughout this. I would prefer somebody like Cody Bellinger. I'd prefer somebody like Christian Yelich.
But now you confused me because you just said you didn't want to trade for Yelich because you'd rather sign a guy. But now you're telling me that you'd rather trade for a guy than sign the second best option, arguably, for an offensive bat with some power.
No. What I'm saying is like in terms of just raw acquisition, like get this player on the team, he'd be like lowest on my priority list.
Understandable, Bryson.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it either. There hasn't been a lot of buzz with that, so I don't know how high it is on, I guess, the Blue Jays priority list. Of course, I guess he's technically another outfielder that I was talking about that could add with power. It's just that's what they need, is they need power and they need more home runs again. So depending on how it all plays out, I don't think he's plan A. I think it's more, it feels like there's more of a focus on Bellinger and then who knows how much on Yelich, but I think there is something there from what we've been hearing. So I don't necessarily think of it as a plan A, but if it ever comes down to it, I am not opposed to it.
Yeah, like he checks off the boxes that I want to see, like power, and the defense is certainly questionable. So I think that might drive away management's point of view. But like I said, he's got the pop in his bat. I would like to and insert any kind of power you want to this Jays lineup. Make them fun again. Give them a chance to hit the long ball because I think that's what this team needs. So if you could give me a guy that can hit home runs, that has power in his bat, I'm in. So Soler, I'm not sure. Do it. Like at this point, I like Pose said, we're down bad. So whatever you want to add here, go ahead. As long as he can hit over the fence, I'm good.
Soler has power, but I'm not convinced that power is going to continue. He's 31. He
That's
had 36 home runs
Yep.
last season, but 2020 he had 13 home runs. So like,
Random
and again,
absurd.
it was only 72 games, but like 2021, 149 games, he had 27 home runs. So like, it's good, but what are you losing on the defensive side?
Yeah.
That you're costing for that much power when you might not be getting that much power in the first place. So but I like the idea. I want the power somewhere. He's a good way to get it. So I don't know. I'm on the fence. I don't have an answer either way on him. The last one, I guess whether we think it's going to happen or not is just Yamamoto. I think no, it's not going to happen. The Jays seem to be involved, but it really seems like the Mets are making a really, really strong push. He had dinner at Steve Cohen's house. And Steve Cohen's like a multi-billionaire. So no, I don't think it's going to happen.
No, I agree, Mark. I think I think the Mets are probably the favorite as well. But it would be cool. Hey, like I said, they haven't made a transaction yet, really, to the MLB roster. So at this point, I'm willing to get anybody. But like you said, I think the Mets are in a pretty good spot to land him.
Yeah, I don't see it very likely. Like again, talking same thing with Stroman. I'm not saying that you wouldn't benefit from having this extra type of pitcher, but you don't need it.
Yeah.
It's just at the end of the day, you do not need starting pitching right now.
Mhm.
It seems like it just feels like it'll be either one of the New York teams or Josh's Dodgers. And I know the Cubs have been kind of involved or not with the talks. Like we haven't, yeah, I'm sure they're keeping tabs on it. I mean, of course, the fit would be great. I mean, you can insert him anywhere based on how good the pitching or how good people say he is in terms of pitching. And he's done very good, of course, overseas. But yeah, I'm not getting enough. I just don't think there's enough noise there, but I guess I could be wrong, but I still think that he's poised for one of the New York teams or California.
Anywhere but the Dodgers. Actually, not New York Yankees either. But no Dodgers, no Yankees. Go to the Mets. Have fun. Have
The
fun.
Mets would be fun.
Have fun wearing the orange and blue. Go play for Cohen.
Mets would be fun. Okay, I think the only other kind of housekeeping thing to keep tabs on is the Blue Jays officially have a date to receive a City Connect jersey, May 6th, 2024. We'll see what it is. I'm very excited for it. It should be fun. We've been waiting quite a few years. I guess it started 2021 when we first saw the kind of first City Connect jerseys trickle out. So we've been waiting quite a while for the Blue Jays to get theirs, and we finally are going to get a taste of it on May 6th. So we're excited for that. Besides that, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you to everyone for listening. Thank you for Josh joining us for the first episode, and hopefully it's the first of many more to come. As always, you can find everything to do with our podcast. Links are below this episode. We've got stuff on Twitter, Instagram. We're all over social media. Follow us there at Section 138 Pod. And we will catch you after the next episode. Enjoy the holidays.